So I got my friend Brooke here. If you would introduce yourself to the camera.
Hello, everybody. I'm Brooklyn. I work out here in Denver at one of the bars, and this is how I met Tully.
Awesome. So with this Creative Questions podcast, what I try to do is interview creative entrepreneurs that are pursuing paths, in social media, podcasts, graffiti, skateboarding, whatever, just dope creative shit. So first, where are you from originally?
Originally, I'm from Kansas City. I was born in Portsmouth, Virginia, but I moved to Kansas City when I was a little girl. So Kansas City is where I'm from. Chiefs fan all the way.
It's a rough year this year?
There's a little bit of a rough year. That was before Mahomes, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Chiefs fan before we were losers. I needed the wave to stop so that way people could respect the Chiefs fans again.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone was like, oh, we're sick of you. So I didn't want to tell people that I was a Chiefs fan. I was like, let me just keep this to myself. Once they found out, they're like, oh my gosh, here we go again. And I'm like, we need someone else to win. Someone else to take the heat off of our back. Yeah.
Too much Taylor Swift everywhere.
I am honestly, don't be mad at me, Kansas City, but I'm really glad that we lost.
Yeah, you're taking a lap.
I am. I knew we were going to, and I'm happy for it.
So you're originally from Kansas City.
Yeah.
You grew up there. How long did you spend all your childhood there? You go to high school there?
Yeah. Preschool, elementary, middle school, high school. I stayed and got my first apartment out there.
Early on in Kansas, what were you doing to express yourself creatively?
I was playing a lot of sports. So I was playing a lot of sports for a little while. Mm-hmm. And then I started getting into like soccer. So I played soccer up until like high school. And then at the end, like high school, I started getting into music a little bit. All of my friends, they became DJs. So I started kind of messing around a little bit with the tables here and there. And then that just kind of opened my mind to like festivals. Then I started going to festivals. Then I started seeing how people made their outfits and then the art and everything that came with it all. And so that got my creative jump wanting to go. And so I started getting into art and DIY and thrift, making my clothes, like thrift flipping. Mm-hmm. And then I switched that up a little bit and decided I wanted to be a model. Okay. And then I left Kansas City, moved to Miami.
Okay.
And that
what was that like? What was the culture shock of Kansas to Miami?
Mind you, I've never been to Miami when I moved there.
Yeah, you just
went.
So
I just straight up went from Kansas City all the way to the East Coast and was like, yeah, we're going to do this thing. It definitely humbled me for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Everybody out there is grinding and doing something, and it kind of makes you feel a little bit small on the spectrum just because everybody is doing something.
It can be overwhelming.
What can I do that's going to make me different than what everyone else out here is doing? You have Wynwood, which is nothing but artists everywhere. Yeah. So it's like, shoot, what can I do? Especially when it came to modeling.
Yeah.
It was very much overwhelming and
one of the biggest modeling markets in the world.
Yeah, and I had no idea what I was doing. I'd done one photo shoot ever in my life. I'm
moving to Miami,
had no
guys.
Direction. Yeah, I was all like, I'm gonna go do that. You know, when people say they're going to LA to become an actor, that was me with modeling. And it didn't take off very well. It didn't take off.
What was Miami like when you got there?
Honestly, it was beautiful. I loved it. I loved Miami. It was sunny. It was culture all around, which is something that I wasn't used to necessarily in Kansas City. You had different genres of music and people and food, and it was constantly, everyone seemed happy there. I don't know if it was the sun, but everyone just seemed happy and they were all on the go. And it also kind of was motivating. It very much made you like, okay, you see everybody on a different level and you're like, I want to do that. So it very much pushes you to kind of get your stuff together and figure out what you want to do and just do it, like just execute. But I was there for the beach. It's very, very, very easy to get caught up in like the nightlife of Miami. That's kind of where I started to get into the club. So I originally went out there to model. That didn't go through the whole way at the beginning.
Yeah,
because I had no idea what I was doing. So I was like, let me just start in the nightclubs because they're big on social media. That's one way to get my face out there. Like I can make connections with other people. And I found out that was a very competitive field as well. And then I
because everybody that's trying to be a model ends up
everybody
in the
wants
nightlife.
to be a bottle girl. So I found a club in Coral Gables, which is like a little bit like 20, 25 minutes away from Miami. So it wasn't like a huge nightclub, but it was just something to get my foot into the door.
Yeah.
And it was okay. However, I didn't speak Spanish, and moving to Miami, I think you need to know un poquito.
Yeah, you need to speak a little Spanish.
Yeah, just a little bit. Everybody out there speaks Spanish, so getting to know the customers and trying to like find my place and make friends with people and that connect, it just didn't go the way that I thought it would when you visualize yourself moving to a big city like that.
Was it during this time, like you're fresh out of high school, you decide you're going to be a model, you jump out the window, you then realize that you're going to have to do some other stuff as well, like bottle service or whatever, and you start trying to hedge your way to the top of the pack? Is that when you started really getting into social media and content creation?
Yeah, I would say that started it just because you had to have a face out there. Like you had to have your own brand, and that's what people taught me when I moved out there was you have to find out what you want to be, who you are, and run with that. You know? And that's where it came from. Okay, social media is kind of big. I need to kind of rebrand. It's no longer just posting whatever the heck I feel like. It needs to be directed towards what I want. My page needs to be set up towards what I want specifically. And it was very much like, okay, if I'm going to do it, I have to dive all the way in. However, I kind of felt the pressure a lot. And I was like, I don't know if this is something that I can do off of the bat out here in Miami. And things just kind of took a little turn, and we ended up here in Denver.
Okay.
This is where the Denver story takes off, right?
Yeah.
So in Denver, I found out that there's a lot of communities out here. That's something that I didn't really look for when I lived in Miami until I moved up here. I found Denver Meets. It's like a modeling meetup group. People just a whole bunch of photographers, models meet up once a month. They all go out, take a whole bunch of photos, do their thing. Everyone can teach each other how to create content and whatnot. And it was very opening. I felt like this was the place for me. I was like, okay, maybe I can start my modeling and everything that I want to do here, that I was trying to do in Miami. Yeah, I could do it here because I found a small niche of people that actually are doing something that I want to do. Whereas in Miami, it was just like, we're competing with each other. No one wanted to work as a group. So when I came
very
out
cutthroat.
here, yeah, very much. So out here having that like group and opening to just everyone having the same kind of idea and being able to mesh that with other creatives, then just really got my like ball turning again. And I was also during COVID, so I had nothing but time to create. So I would set up home photo shoots, and I would do nothing but flip my clothes and just make videos. However, they weren't great videos. I look back on them now and I'm like, what was I doing?
As you've evolved?
As like I evolve, yeah, but we all start somewhere, and that's what I forget is just to now.
I feel like there are certain people that have like a natural knack for content creation. And when I look at the stuff that you were doing and have been doing, I feel like you have that. Like the videos you create aren't just kind of static pro quo videos. Like they're like interesting flips on things, which it sounds like it's could be connected to like the DIY clothes flipping and like, yo, how do I make this funky?
How do I do this? Well, that's the thing. Like when I started doing it, I more focused on my materials and like products and things that I was actually creating versus the video and like the technological side of things. And now with my creations, I kind of started like the videography is now like a hobby. So I enjoy making the videos and the edits. So it's fun, and I've definitely like seen that growth and didn't realize that was something that I was even interested in content creating.
Yeah.
So it opened up a whole nother like realm of things, and now I just do all of it. And I can't find one thing that I want to stick with, and I think that's my problem because I like to create multiple things at one time.
Well, I think that's like through creating, we see like we want to do it all.
Yeah, it inspires you for like the next one.
But then in that you start refining your skills and getting kind of good at all of it, and then eventually you have all of these finished products that you're like, oh wow, I'm good at this and I'm good at this because you've been slowly working on it.
Yeah, exactly.
So you end up in Denver. You're doing these meets. You, I'm assuming, jump into the bottle service or bartending game. How does that happen? What does that look like?
Once COVID kind of got up, I jumped back into the bar scene. I don't know why I thought going into it was going to be the same as Miami in a sense of it's a club. They're all the same thing. You know, you make the money. It's different. The demographic is way different out here compared to Miami, and
in a good or bad way. Or just different, equal
it's
different.
Just different, yeah. Denver's like its own city, and Miami's its own city as well. But Miami's known for the partying, and they have everything to really take clubs off in that direction that Denver's just not as big and known for.
You're starting to see some of the big players move into Denver. Like the company I used to work for, 2 of the clubs got bought out by Insomniac, which already have a heavy footprint in Miami and LA. So like in the next, like you were just ahead of the curve essentially, in the next 1 to 3 years, you're gonna see more of the corporate club companies come to town, and that scene is going to become very, very like Miami-ish or New York-ish or LA-ish.
I think it's what they're going for. However, they just forget that it's Denver. Like
it's a cow town.
Yeah,
they don't realize it's a cow town.
It just doesn't work towards what we have out here.
Yeah,
and I think that's kind of just why, slowly but surely, I've been working on all my other little things, just because it's been years out here in the night scene, and I've seen it all, done it all.
What was the first gig you got when you first got here?
I worked at Native.
Okay.
Which that reopened right after COVID. That was my first gig out here, and that was not a great time. That club was owned by just someone who was very controlling, and I knew what serving was and how to work in a nightclub. However, this particular club tried to change the rules and flip things around a little bit, and it was shady, and I got out of it because I knew that it wasn't right, you know? And then my next club, what did I go to? I went to Rhubar, everyone's favorite for the wings.
I've heard.
Yeah, the popular Rhubar. And that was fun. It really was. I met a lot of people. I really felt like I was comfortable working there, like the staff, like,
getting the community together.
Yeah. Started like getting to know people, making friends, getting involved with like, that was the first club I think that I really got involved with like teams and I guess you could say like famous people coming out here to Denver. And that was the first club to get involved with that, which was cool and kind of gave me that opening of, okay, like there is that small little bit here that Miami.
There's a scene, it's just different.
There's a little bit, yeah. Rhubar, I mean, every club that I've worked at, it just started off great, and then it just kind of like went in just a south direction. And it made me so sad because I could just see the potential in all these clubs, and I was like, they could be so awesome out here.
Were you bartending back then too, or what led you to bartend?
What led me to bartending was just something different, change of pace, and honestly, if you want to say I would be lazy, have the people come to me instead of me go to the people. Just kind of
people don't realize it's less work and you make more money.
It is. It really is. It really is. You don't have someone constantly like, hey, I need this. Hey, I need this, and you're just running around. Instead, like they come to you and they're like, can you do this for me? And it's like, oh yeah, no problem. So I liked that mix up and having that balance. And then whenever I jumped on and started working over there at Bar Standard and Milk, it gave me that opportunity to get away from doing bottle service that little bit of a time, and then I could go do the other. And
be like, get with like kind of a diverse crowd, because that's what's special about Milk is every kind of human goes through that door.
It's amazing. It's awesome though. Yeah. Like for me, I liked it, and that's what I found out was working in some of these clubs. It's the same people every weekend, same thing, and it's just boring, you know? You're gonna have the same tables booked out, but it's like, how many times can you do that? Or how many times can they do that is what I should say. so it was like, okay, this isn't going to last very long, especially if I'm going to be here long term. If I'm going to continue this up, I just don't see how it's not going to continue to kind of fade away a little bit. And then Milk and Bar Standard gave me that opening of, there's so many people out here. There's so many people out here, and they just don't go to where I work at.
Yeah.
But they enjoy the nightlife. They enjoy other things.
The nightlife is just different. It manifests itself differently.
It's so different, even down to like what people wear different versus where I was working at, and then working at Milk and Bar Standard.
After working at Milk and Bar Standard, did that experience start informing the clothes that you were making and the creative content you were creating, having been exposed to like such unique crowds?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely did. And also being with just, it seemed like regular people, like even working with regular people, because
people not putting a facade on.
Right. But I had gotten caught up in like just the nightlife. You can get sucked into it, and I feel like I did, and it put my creative block there, and I just like stopped doing everything that I was doing, and I just became so just party, and that's just not who I am. Like that wasn't who I am. That's my job, and yes, of course I can do it, but it's not something that I love to do. I like to do other things, and everyone that I was around just didn't have that mindset. So then when I started working at Bar Standard and Milk, I started hanging out with people that just were down to earth and did crafts and art and like other things, and it made me get back into my creative mode. And then it was like, okay, like let's do both. Like let's get a little bit out of this a little. But it's tough because the money.
Sure.
Like that's honestly the hardest part about trying to do both was the money, because it's like the more that I let up and try to do my creative stuff, the more I would slack on my booking tables or trying to get people in through the door. And it was like, I don't know how much more I can do this, which is why I just went directly towards bartending.
Yeah.
Bartending, I could do that. People are always going to come sit at the bar.
Exactly.
I don't have to go out of my way to like go make my money.
You're not hustling a table and a service.
Yeah, exactly. So then it gave me more time to I could focus on myself. So currently I'm just rebranding everything. And I've been hibernating a lot. I would say within this last like year and a half. There was some family losses last year, and it just kind of opened my eyes to I no longer want to sit and just not live my life and not do things that make me happy. Like life's too short. You never know when you're going to go.
The impermanence of it.
Yeah, exactly. So I've just kind of put everything all into my basket and just going to go for it. Just kind of
one of my very close friends just passed on Friday.
Yeah.
And he was a super talented creative that was someone I really looked up to. Like when I made the decision to get sober 5-6 years ago, he was one of the people I called, and just watching his ascent as a stylist, and he moved his whole operation from Denver to LA, and really became this like beacon of success and creativity, and he was just a dope dude. He would always like pop back into chats and be like, "Yo, dog, I see you. This is killing it, whatever." And he just passed on Friday. Still don't even know why.
I'm sorry.
But it reminds you of like the impermanence of it, and like, man, I have to do this today. Like if I'm gonna thrive as a human, I need to thrive in this moment, this present moment. Everything else has to melt away because it can end at any second.
Yeah. And it made me, and it was like, I self-reflected on, would I be happy if it did? And then it was like, well, what do I bring to the table? So I sat back and like kind of asked myself these questions and figured out, what do I do? What can I do? What should I start doing? And like I said before, how I used to do every single thing like at once, and then I couldn't figure out where to go. I figured out how to just start somewhere, like one thing, and it will inspire me to do the others.
What was the thing?
The thing was my podcast. Like out of everything that I do, my podcast, which is still fairly new, that was the thing that I was like, I'm gonna dive into, and it made me start doing other things. Like, so now I have an Etsy shop that's about to come out and drop the link to whenever I get my logo finished. And my podcast will be going a lot more once I'm consistent. That's the thing too, is I wasn't consistent. I was still in a weird time where I wanted to drop everything that I was doing to focus on one thing to get everything lifted off, but mentally I wasn't in the right place. So that was leaving me procrastinating things and not having that full. So I had to take time off. Took time off for a little while.
Yeah.
Planned it all out, wrote it down, and then now it's time to get it all back together, to be consistent. Because I realize
implement the process.
Yeah, nothing's going to happen if I'm not consistent. I realized like that inconsistency was like just creating that high and low dip for myself, and as well. Like I didn't have a constant, oh, I want to go do this every day. It was just kind of, oh, I could do it later. Like I'm not feeling it today, and then one day I would have like a manic day, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let's do something today. And it wasn't creating that.
For me, consistency is kind of like, it's a boring word, right?
It is.
And so what I've done to establish consistency is I find a rhythm in life.
Yeah.
Like, how do I create a rhythm around the things that are important to me and live by that rhythm? It's like the beat of my own drum, right? And so like with what we're doing here with this podcast and the other creative things, like I pick certain times of the day and certain days of the week that, okay, I'm going to focus on this project specifically. And that's the rhythm. And I'm in here and I'm kind of in this mind state. And then, you know, on these days, I'm focusing on those things. And for me, I found that by generating a rhythm, I can naturally be consistent instead of like looking at my creative endeavors as a job. Like I need to do this. Because it blocks it. It creates that mental block for me. But when it's fun and I have a rhythm and it's like, yo, then I start looking forward to it. Looking forward to the conversation and looking forward to the ability to create. And I'm calling all my creative friends and showing them the things. And they're like, oh my, you know. And so that's my thing that I do is I try to establish a rhythm around the things I love.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think that's one way to do it. That's one way to create that flow. So that way you don't stress yourself out and get caught up in like what you're doing is fun instead of the job, because it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
And the job part of it just comes with it if it does. But I got caught up in my mental health, and that took me out for a second. But now we've planned everything. We're clear on the road. We know what we're doing, and we're gonna get the ball rolling. However, right? I say this, and I need to say the consistency part. But yet here I am about to travel and do other things. And
I think in that
put that on hold again.
In that traveling, if you can create a rhythm or a frequency while you're traveling, you'll be able to establish that consistency, right? Like you're always going to be a creative person. You're a creative person whether you're in Kansas City, Miami, or Oklahoma. And so it's just like, okay, I'm gonna do this on Mondays. I'm just gonna spend 5 hours a day figuring it out, whatever it is, and making that commitment. It eventually manifests itself into creation. Like if you just specifically do it, you know.
I think it's hard for me to do that right now, just because one, I've never traveled while also trying to finish rebranding myself at the same time. So it's like this is my home base. So it's easier for me to, if somebody needs whatever, jewelry, an art piece or whatever, it's easy for me to just give it to them versus having to mail it or, hey, thanks for buying it, but now you got to wait a couple of weeks until I can get there to give it to you. And then it's like, great, now go ahead and leave me a bad review because I had to take time. You know what I'm saying? Like
reviews are so annoying.
Oh, finding that balance to not get that 1 star.
We recently got a review for one of the ice cream shops, and it was a 2-star review, but it was like 7 paragraphs of information. And when you read the information, it was mostly positive, with the exception of like one item they felt like we should carry. And like my thought was like, bro, just open your own ice cream shop and carry that shit. We're gonna do what we want. But it was like, it felt like somebody that's trying to be a restaurant reviewer. It was
7. You know what? If you have the time to do it, I guess.
I sent it to one of the homies. He's like, bro, do you use AI?
Yeah, all these people doing that now. I'm like,
wow.
That's insane. That's insane.
But
2 stars.
Yeah. So what's next for you?
What's next?
Yeah. You said you're traveling?
Yes, I am traveling. If anybody out here has hail damage on their car, holler at your girl. I am her.
Where are you going for that?
Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is the start of the storm for this season.
I have some homies out there. I know out here they have a grow house, and they probably have something like that out there.
Yeah.
but they're involved in the DJ community out there. So if you want me to plug you in with those guys, they're like out here, like they play Red Rocks, like they're pillars in the community, and they have their own like little hub in OKC
that
as
would
well.
be cool. That would be cool. Yeah, I know. Again, here I am going to do something I've never been in Oklahoma City. I've driven through it. That's about it. I know they have red dirt, and that's all I know. That's about all I know. I'm like, why do I do this to myself? But it's okay. Another culture shock, I feel like, is about to happen just a little bit. I've heard some things people have told me.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
It's changed some, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll be going back and forth from there to here for a little bit.
I think it's, to me, just knowing you the time that I've known you, and talking in this conversation, it seems like you have this natural thing where you get to a point where you're just ready to jump out the window.
Yep.
Where, from Kansas to Miami, from Miami to Denver, and now, I don't know if anybody wakes up to join the hail damage industry, but they do it in conjunction with the other things that they're pursuing for their life. And so it's like a tool to grow and develop the next phases, right? Yeah. And so like Denver, when you land out there and bouncing back and forth, you're gonna establish yourself and you're gonna find a creative growth in that experience too.
Absolutely, and it's inspirational, honestly. Like I need to, it's almost like I need to travel to kind of get inspired, right? Because once you go somewhere else, you're kind of like, oh wow, and you start thinking about like
everything's new again.
Yeah, everything's new again, and then you get back home and you're like, like I don't like certain things. Let me fix that, or let me change it, or let me. So I'm excited for that for sure. I definitely have stepped a lot more into like the fashion industry more than I used to. From modeling, I would just wear the clothes and be on the other side of the camera, and now I'm finding myself kind of wanting to do the opposite of that, like creative direct, but not be in it, just style everybody else or be on the other side of the camera, which is very interesting how, you can play both sides, but it's fun. I like it. I've been building some jewelry, making jewelry. I make chokers. So for all my festival galleys and gals out there who would like to go to like EDC or anything like that, let me know. They can make them custom.
The guys, the guys that throw EDC, Insomniac, they just bought Church and Vinyl. You're gonna see a EDC Denver. It's coming.
EDC. Oh. I'm sure the community is happy for that though. That's a big community out here, which is really cool. I just started creating things. I started creating things for myself and realized I should do this for other people. Just because everyone doesn't have the time to do it's tedious work. I like to do tedious work. Making chokers, making chain tops, it's fun for me. And I was like, why don't I make this for other people? Why don't I sell this? Why don't I do that? Now we're trying to get all of our creative stuff out there, into the world to make money off of versus like, I do like to create just for fun, but I want to make it to where it's not a job, but it's
a labor of love.
Oh yeah, exactly that. That's a great way to put it. And I want to make other people out there inspired, and I want them to, I guess, realize that you don't have to be someone that you're not in order to create what you want. And I'm going to say that because a lot of people, I think, put their creative side on hold based on the way that the world is now. Like social media, and like they're scared to put their things out there. They try to, they're like, no one's going to like this. No one's going to think that's cool, or my friends probably think it's dumb. And it's like, don't do that. Because I did that for so long, and it like shut out who I was as a person, and it blocked my creative field. And then it was like, what am I doing? Like, why do I even care about anybody else but myself? Why do their inputs matter to what I'm creating? Art has no definition. It's literally anything.
It's literally anything for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just kind of made me just realize that life is not as hard as we make it. And I don't know why creating makes it seem that way, but it does. It just takes your mind into a different direction and realizes you worry about things that aren't so.
I think it takes you back to the subconscious, right? Like when you're creating art or you're creating, you go back to the essence of who you are, and when you're trying to find success in the structured world, you're trying to fit into a mold to create that success, whatever it is. When you're creating for yourself, you're just manifesting your true identity, and boom.
Exactly. Exactly. Then you can share it with everybody else. And then you can tell everyone that, hey, it's actually not so bad to just not give a fuck. You know? To just be who you
It's
are and
encouraged,
do
actually. Not giving a fuck's encouraged.
Yeah, actually do that. Don't care what people think. And I also think being surrounded by people who have the same mindset helps a lot. And that's something with the club industry. I got so sucked into just everyone that was not doing what I wanted to do. And it made me who I didn't want to be. And now that I'm around those people who have that open mind and who are genuine again and real and down to earth and do other things besides just work in the nightclub and want to do other things besides drink and party every day, has made it a lot easier to do my creative side and still also bartend now.
Mm-hmm. So now bartending is fun again.
Yeah, bartending is fun. It's still like my party time, but that's like about it. You know, I don't really go out on the weekends anymore. It's just I do my creative stuff during the week and work for my hail company, and then the weekend it's like, okay, I'm here
fun
for
job.
You guys to yeah. That's kind of it.
It's turned into fun job instead of like.
It has, yeah, and it's taken me years to kind of understand that and how much that industry and that nightlife scene can just take a turn and really affect you in other ways. Whereas you could use it to your advantage by the people that you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it wasn't doing that for me. Mm-hmm. It wasn't. And until now, here it is. It's like, okay, I finally found my footing between what I want to do and what I do as my job. And then here we are. Mm-hmm. You have all this going on, which is freaking awesome. My wife. I love it.
Yes.
Out of the freaking industry. Proud of you. And it's inspiring.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, to see it. And I know that you have made all those connections and we use them. And it's awesome. I think what you're doing is really cool.
Yeah. Really cool. You know, my whole thing is I love watching people succeed and getting involved with people and, you know, using like this podcast. The whole idea was just to get with people that I've always been inspired by and learn from them and present their cool shit to the world. Mm-hmm. It's kind of what the intention of this is and like what the path of it is. Like right now you're still early days with some of your stuff, but next time you come on, hopefully the DIY stuff and the content creating stuff's further along and we'll have more exciting stuff to talk about. Like, I don't know. I'm excited though.
Oh yeah, there's a lot more in the works. Last year just was like a rough one for me. Last year just was not my year, and so this year we came with a totally different, new mindset, new everything. It was just kind of like wipe everything clean, rebrand, plan it out, and then execute it. Yeah, all just through me. So I'm like, give me a couple months by summertime. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more going on. With this traveling and balancing of everything, I am trying to figure that out at the moment. But at the same time, I think that it will help me get deadlines done just because it'll give me those dates exactly. So that way I can have things coming out more, be more consistent.
I'm excited to see what you create. And I hope that while you're traveling and bouncing around, you're implementing that creative mindset the whole time. Like I'm curious to see what kind of videos Brooke creates when she's walked into some random Oklahoma situation. Like that experience, what does that manifest, you know, and how do we put that on camera? I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, exactly. The red dirt's coming.
The red dirt's coming. Yeah. So let's end it there. It's the homegirl Brooke. Thank you for coming on the Creative Questions podcast.